Hey, y'all, it's Lori and David Sims with Nacho Kids, Nacho Parenting again. We want to talk to you about high conflict bio parents.
Something we know nothing about.
It's easy to view someone as a high conflict bio parent. I could have been viewed as a high conflict bio parent because my son was an infant when his dad and I had already split up. So I needed to tell his dad, this is when he eats, this is what's going on, watch for this, stuff you tell somebody when it's a baby, right? But that easily could have been construed by his dad as, she's telling me what to do. She thinks I'm stupid. And that wasn't the case. It was, I cared about my child and wanted to make sure that he was cared for with whoever had him.
Yeah. I think anybody who has conflict tends to be labeled high conflict, right?
Right.
So I think I could fall in the same category. There were certainly times I was high conflict. There were more times I feel that where I was on the receiving end of that, but I certainly, for a while there didn't hesitate to, respond back and then add on my 2 or 3 other things, to make it like,
tit for tat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a long time there. I'm not sure how long, but there was a long time that you and I would spend literally an entire weekend formulating a response to an email. And looking back on it, it stole so much time from us, from our kids, from our weekend, from our sanity, trying to deal with that, because you felt like everything that was said, you have to defend and then throw a little bit extra in there. So it causes them to have to defend.
Right. Right.
And it just is so ridiculous.
And you have to be careful when you respond that your email may end up in court.
Yeah.
Especially with me, considering I was in and out of the court system for 18 years.
Right.
So you want to be careful with those things. If, for instance, your ex may say, little Johnny told me he never wants to come to your house again. He hates you. Don't address that.
Yeah.
Don't address that. Not with your ex. You can address it with your child, but don't say,
well, you don't want to be
ex. Your mama said you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Don't put your kid in the middle of that,
Right.
but talk to them in a way that you can find out what's going on with them. It may just be the loyalty binds that the child has with the other parent, and they know the other parent doesn't want them to go to your house. So they're feeding off that of, I'm going to tell mom this, then I'll tell dad this. So don't ever put them in that situation. And also, a high conflict ex may be somebody that messages you constantly, texts you everything. 90% of the time, it has nothing to do with the child. What you can do in that instance is, let's set up Family Wizard or My Family Wizard, whatever it's called, the communication apps that the court system recommends, and use that for communication purposes. We have worked with so many people that deal with high conflict exes to the point that the ex is smearing their name, trying to get them in trouble at work, crazy stuff. The way to avoid that is to not engage in it. Don't play tit for tat. If the ex sends you an email that has 25 things in it that are lies and one thing that's the truth, respond to the one truth.
Yeah.
Carefully.
What we've witnessed and experienced is that when you cut that off, the faster you can do that, then you pull the fuel out of the fire, because you're not responding to a lot of the accusations, which causes, when you respond to that, first of all, it takes forever to do that. And then
you read it over and over and over.
Yeah. And then they come back with more. And then it starts this volley of emails back and forth where you're defending, they're attacking, you're defending, they're attacking. And it's like, for what?
Right.
So
it serves no purpose.
And it gets into, everybody's probably by now heard the term gaslighting. So it gets into that from time to time. And that's when you have to determine, how are you going to respond to some of these things? And for us, what ended up working was oftentimes my response to those emails would simply be, okay,
Mhm.
It just depended on what it was, but I stopped spending hours and hours and hours responding to those types of emails. And I would just say, okay,
Well, and there are sometimes things in those emails that you need to confirm you receive,
yeah, absolutely.
or you want them to confirm if they receive.
Mm-hmm.
So you acknowledge receipt of it, but you don't get into the tit for tat.
Right. Yeah. Because some emails, like you said, they have things in there that you need to talk about. And then sometimes the whole entire email from top to bottom was completely pointless.
Right. So you're dealing with a high conflict ex.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the bio dad, your high conflict ex can try to mess with your partner. Do not let your partner get involved in this mess.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it is very easy for example, let's just take us. Let's say we're the ones in the scenario. It would be very easy for you to say, let me deal with your ex, honey, because I can see she causes you so much stress. And oh, heck yeah.
Here.
Have at it. Yeah, I don't want to do it. But that can be very problematic.
Right. And then two, one thing that we did, and it was very helpful, was I told David, unless it affects me, I don't want to know. If you talk to her, I don't want to read the text. I don't want to read the emails. I don't want to hear about the conversations unless it directly impacts me.
Yeah. So I'll let you talk about how that played out for you. Like, how did it help you? For me, it helped reduce the stress of me feeling like I had to respond to things in a way that she approved and then explain to her all the intricacies around how I responded and what I said and how I said it and what was the response. It became this having to relive the whole thing all over again, but yet doing it for approval. So I felt like I was caught in the middle of, I am defending myself against one person, but yet I'm also hoping that I don't offend another person that is going to say, well, you didn't do that right.
Right. Well, once I started not knowing things, at first I was like, but I want to know. I want to know. What did y'all talk about? What did she say?
Yeah.
But it got a lot easier. And I was so thankful not to be in that mess. My life was so much less stressful not being a part of their mess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say all that knowing that there are a lot of women that do a lot of the legal work, we'll say, for their partner.
Mm-hmm.
Because women are good at organizing. Women are not saying men aren't, but women are good at organizing. They're good at documentation, writing every little detail down and things like that. But if that's causing your partner stress, take that back away from them. Let it be your fight. And they can be supportive. Your partner can help you read something that you wrote and maybe check it for misspellings, grammar errors, things like that, but not be fully involved.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when they're so involved, that emotion spreads throughout your relationship. And it doesn't need to be. Your relationship needs to be your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, I think we would often write out an email, usually right away, and not send it because the first email was never something you'd want to see.
No, you need to wait 24 hours.
Well, let me give you a little trick here, though. Never hit reply and then draft your email to send later, knowing you're probably not going to send it later. Because if you're going to do that, you need to take the person's name out of the two,
or create a new email.
Yeah, create a completely new email so you don't make the mistake of clicking send when you're like, oh my God, I wasn't ready to send that.
I made that mistake once.
You're not the only one. We've heard that happen numerous times.
And let's just say that luckily that didn't end up in court because it was not some nice stuff. It was my bullet points to talk about in the email. So of course they weren't nice, we'll just say.
So don't click reply, just click on new message, get it all out. Like do your little dump, your brain dump right there and say everything you want to say and be mean or whatever you want to do. Then marinate on it for 24 hours.
Yes, 24 hours is a good time frame.
Calm down and then come back and reread it. Look at, all right, where are the facts? What's the truth? What am I dealing with here that I really need to respond to, and cut all the rest of it out, get it down to where it's something that you're willing to stand behind when you send it.
Right. So the 2,000 word email you received
is now 5.
Your response may only need to be, yes, I will send the $10 for the book fair.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
That will not be used against you in court because you didn't address the crap.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something else. And I know Anthony teaches a lot of this stuff, but I had an attorney, as I mentioned. I had several attorneys, and we'll talk about later why I didn't represent myself. But I had several attorneys, and a lot of those attorneys would look at all the stuff I had, stuff that didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it didn't matter. They knew it didn't matter, but they still, they're $300, $400, $500 an hour, whatever it was. They charged me to read these emails. Right. One of them even logged in to Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And viewed all the Facebook posts. None of that was used in court. That was a waste of my money and a waste of my time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things you think will matter don't. Once you look at it from a non-emotional standpoint, you will see those things. So if you have a friend maybe that's not been in the family court system, that's not been in a step family, have them read some of the stuff that you're thinking about that needs to be included in your evidence. And if they think, well, this is kind of silly, then no. The judge isn't going to care if little Johnny ate at 6:30 instead of 6. The judge isn't going to care if little Johnny wore the same clothes back that he was sent in on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
The judge isn't going to care if the shorts were 2 sizes too small. They're not going to care about those things. But as parents, a lot of times we do care about those things. So we feel like the judge should care, right? These judges are dealing with abuse cases, parental alienation cases, which I know a lot of you are going through, and we'll talk about that later too. They're dealing with stuff that is of really great importance. And I know one lady that we had worked with, they had to go back to court to get permission from the court to take the kids to Disney.
Mm-hmm.
The judge was angry.
Yeah.
Like, you're bringing this into my courtroom. Can you not settle it yourself? Oh, and that reminds me of mediation and guardian ad litem. We'll talk about all that too. But you have to do what you have to do, right? So if your ex is preventing you from taking your kids on vacation, yeah, you need to address it. But it needs to be addressed and proven that you were willing to work with this person,
mm-hmm.
but you didn't get the same in return.
Right.
And if you're dealing with a high conflict ex, a lot of times that ex will tell the kids stuff about you that's not true. Don't try to talk to your kids about that. Again, leave them out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Be you and let your child see who you are, and they'll see that what they're hearing is not true. Because bio mom could say, oh, well, you didn't send little Susie back on time with her homework. And you know you did. But how do you prove that? You can't.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ask the kid, did you forget to take your homework home because your mom said blah, blah, blah. Just try your best to keep the kids out of the middle of this. I actually saw something the other day in a Facebook group that said, my ex wants to get the kids back early. It's my time, court order time. I don't want to give them back early. But the kids say if mom shows up, they're leaving with her. What do you do? Well, first of all, we don't know the ages of the kids. That makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
But just say these kids are teenagers, preteens, 10, 15 years old. If the kids are going to go with mom, if she comes early, let them go. But document. Get you a notebook. Get you a folder on your computer. Create a Word document, an Excel document, whatever. And write down everything. You can't write down too much. You can share too much with a judge, but you can't write down too much. And then you go through and you find the important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You think you'll remember a year later something bad that happened? You won't, man. And the older you get, the worse it is. So you want to document everything. And I did document things, but I will say sometimes I fell short with that because I felt like I was spending all my time with my son preparing for court constantly, and that I was not spending time with him because I had to document everything.
Yeah. Well, it's easier nowadays because with technology, you can talk into your phone or
Right.
you can pull up, let's say, a Google Doc, and you can click on the microphone and you can just dictate all that stuff. And just like she's saying, just dump it all out there. You know,
Right.
you can worry about going through it later, tell your story, timestamp it, the whole 9 yards. But you don't have to sit there and type it all out and make
Right.
sure you capture everything.
Yeah, bullet points. Make bullet points.
Yeah.
But make those bullet points be something that you're going to remember the details.
Mm.
Okay. And do not lie. Y'all, I'm a big stickler when it comes to lying. But the last thing you want to do is get caught in family court lying.
Yeah.
So when you write down your documentation, don't say, oh, he was 30 minutes late. I'm going to put an hour. No, don't do that. Do not do it. Be honest and be factual.
Yeah.
And in your own notes, you can be emotional, but not when you go to court.
And you also can't speculate. Like you can't say, I know she did this to get on my nerves. You don't know that.
You can put that in your notes, but again, it stays in your notes, not
all right.
shared.
Yeah. I know. It's like when somebody tells you how you feel. Like, you don't know how I feel. You're guessing.
I know it upsets you. No, you don't. You don't know how I feel.
Right. So just be careful when you're making assumptions and filling in the blanks. Try not to fill in the blanks. Like Lori said, just stick with the absolute facts that you can stand behind, you can prove.
Right. I also would send myself emails because we didn't have the whole note-taking thing back then. Yes.
Back then. Way back in the day.
So I would send myself emails, and I always titled them the same thing. That way, there was no question when I needed to search those emails.
Yeah. I was going to say, put it in something where it makes it searchable. I know, if you want to do pen and paper, you certainly can, but it makes it extremely difficult when you're looking for things and you're trying to search back through it. So I'm always a proponent of putting in technology. Now, having said that, make sure you're backing that stuff up. There's no way you're going to lose it.
That's why I emailed myself.
Yeah.
Because there was stuff I had on a phone. I was getting a new phone. Your son needed a phone.
Yeah.
We rushed to erase my phone, and I realized there was stuff on there I needed. Yeah. It wasn't court stuff, but still it was stuff that I needed. And so I was really upset about that. So make sure that if you are using your phone, that it's stored on a cloud.
Yeah. And even then, make sure there's a backup. Most people don't realize that cloud services do not provide backups on most things. If you're using Google, they don't provide backups. If you're using Microsoft 365 or whatever it's now called by the time you watch this, they don't provide backups unless you're paying an additional fee for that or additional third-party service for it or something like that. If you delete it permanently, it's gone.
That's what I was going to say. Is your stuff safe? But if you accidentally delete it and it doesn't go into the delete or trash or whatever, if you have it set up to permanently delete, you're not getting it back.
Yeah. Well, it might be safe. There have been times that even Google has deleted people's things accidentally. Now, they can recover stuff when they make the mistake. All that aside, make sure you have the stuff backed up. Make sure you have multiple copies. In fact, I like what's called the 3-2-1 rule. You want to have 3 copies of the data in 2 different formats, meaning like maybe one's on a USB and then one is saved in the cloud somewhere, and then have one of those be quote unquote off site. Now that could be in the cloud, it could be in a safe deposit box in a bank, but you want to make sure, like, if your house burnt down, you're not losing your data when something happens, or somebody steals your laptop, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah. All that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, your documentation is very important when you go to court. If I went to court and I had documentation for everything and David didn't, and we were in court against each other,
yeah,
who's more likely to be believed about the events that happened?
Mm-hmm.
I have documentation. He's going off memory.
Right.
It's also very important that when you compile this information, that again, you take the emotion out of it. What are the facts? The facts are you went to pick the child up and your ex wasn't there. The fact is you waited 30 minutes, you tried to call and did not get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is you never got a return call. You waited another 30 minutes and then you left. Those are the facts. The facts aren't that they're a horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
They may be, but that's not what you're trying to present. And from most of the stuff I've seen in the Pro Say Dad group, a lot of it is parental alienation. And my heart goes out to y'all for this. I know way too many people that have experienced it. Family members have experienced it. My sister was one, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. And it's hard on your partner because they don't know what to do to help you. So talk to your partner and tell them, look, I know you don't know what to do to help me, but just be supportive. And that doesn't mean when you're complaining that they jump on the complaint bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
Your partner can say, I know that's frustrating. I can understand how hard this is on you. I think you're doing a great job. Keep fighting, be your supporter, right? But if they jump on the complaint bandwagon, that's not beneficial to you at all.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, but we do want to know, what do you do when you have a high conflict bio parent or ex that you're dealing with? How do you deal with it? What do you do when you get that email and you have to respond? I'd like to know in the comments below. So let us know.
I know what my ex would do. Whatever, Lori. Yeah. And that's a trigger for me. I know my name. You don't need to tell me my name. All right, folks. We hope this was helpful to you, and we will see you next week.